Hey guys, tonight we dive into something so strangely specific, so curiously obscure, and honestly, so uncannily predictive that you might start checking your own bookshelf for secret warnings. Imagine this: a forgotten Japanese manga from the early 1990s, half dystopian sci-fi, half psychological horror, drawn in gritty ink lines with surreal panel layouts that feel like they're warping time just to read them. Now imagine that same manga containing references to things it couldn't possibly have known: political shifts, weather patterns, viral outbreaks, and even mysterious public art. All of it eerily aligned with what you've seen in 2025. You probably won't survive this mental spiral. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and your local time in the comments so we know who's joining us across the world tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in a cramped Tokyo bookstore in the dead of night, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like anxious bees. There, on the lowest shelf in the horror section, wedged between titles like Gyo and MPD Psycho, lies a thick, yellowing manga volume simply titled Kodoku no Owari, The End of Solitude. It's dog-eared and dusty, its cover cracked, a watercolor depiction of a man with no face standing in a city that's half flooded, half burning. A strange unease pulses from it, even before you open the first page. You don't know it yet, but this is the beginning. The manga first released in 1992, drawn and written by a lesser-known artist named Sakaki Muroi. Never a commercial success, the series was published through an experimental horror imprint and ran just 8 volumes before being pulled mysteriously from shelves in 1997. At the time, it was just considered too weird, not in a fun way, but in a makes your dreams taste like static kind of way. It sat ignored for decades, with only die-hard collectors even remembering it existed. Until, of course, 2025 happened. It started with one viral tweet, a side-by-side comparison of a manga panel from Kodoku no Owari and a real photo of the Tokyo subway after the January 3rd tremor. The angle, the crowd, the flickering emergency lights, identical. Someone even zoomed into the background of the panel and spotted the words January 3rd, 2025, scrawled faintly across a digital billboard in the art. One coincidence? Sure. 2? Uncomfortable. But 3? By the end of January, internet sleuths had identified 14 distinct events from the manga that mirrored unfolding events in terrifying detail, most of them clustered tightly between January and March 2025. And the accuracy wasn't vague like astrology. No, these were down to facial expressions, timestamps, even phrases on protest banners. One scene showed a military vehicle parked near Shibuya Crossing, surrounded by panicked civilians with masks and umbrellas, drawn in 1993. You probably already guessed what happened in February 2025. Viral outbreak, military quarantine, chaos in the streets of Shibuya. Historians still argue whether this kind of prediction is simply the result of narrative chance, coincidence stacked on coincidence, or something more disturbing. But whatever the case, interest in the manga exploded like Mentos in cola. Within weeks, #Kodoku no Owari trended globally. Scanned pages circulated like forbidden texts, and first editions were being scalped for thousands on collector forums. YouTubers dissected every frame like sacred scripture. TikTok creators began doing manga versus reality series, placing the manga's grainy panels next to eerily matching drone footage. Then came the fans. No, let's be honest, then came the truthers. They claimed Muroi's work wasn't fiction at all, that it was a warning disguised as art, that the manga had predicted the order riots in Okinawa, the magnetic pulse blackouts, and even the vanishing of the Mount Asama surveillance balloon, an incident that, to this day, the Japanese government refuses to acknowledge ever occurred. Here's a fringe tidbit for your pillow tonight. One post on an anonymous Japanese forum claimed that the manga was never meant to be published publicly, that it was leaked, and the publishing house only existed for a few years, with no records, no address, and no surviving employees. People went digging hard. And while some evidence of the company did surface, like obscure catalogs and financial filings, many more questions still hang in the air like mist. And let's not forget the sound. Yes, the sound. One page of the manga depicts an urban flood with the handwritten SFX Goom and a caption that reads, "The sky howled like it remembered something awful." On March 9th, 2025, during a rare supercell storm in the Kanto region, residents reported a thunderclap so low and long it caused some windows to rattle in rhythm. Guess what local meteorologists named it? You got it, Goom. The uncanny pattern kept building, and by spring, the manga had moved from creepy coincidence to full-blown cultural artifact. It was being archived in museums. Scholars requested English translations. Late-night pundits jokingly suggested that maybe governments should hire mangaka for forecasting models. But the laughter didn't last long, because as May crept in, someone noticed the next event in the manga's timeline. Something about Tokyo Tower cracking. Something that hadn't happened yet. And you know what happened next? You'll find out soon enough. You're standing beneath Tokyo Tower now. It's a warm, electric evening in early May, and the air smells like ozone and fried octopus balls. Tourists shuffle around you, selfie sticks clicking, little kids licking rainbow ice cream cones that melt faster than they can eat them. Everything feels ordinary, until it doesn't. Without warning, a vibration hums beneath your feet, not violent but distinct, like an old subway train passing directly under you. Then comes the sound, not explosive but wrong. A deep groaning crack that seems to rise from inside the earth itself. Every head turns, and just like that, Tokyo Tower goes dark. Not destroyed, not toppled, just silent. Every light goes out in perfect sequence from top to bottom. A few people scream, a few laugh nervously, but most just freeze, eyes locked on the structure like it's about to whisper a secret none of us want to hear. By midnight, the tower is cordoned off. By morning, satellite images confirm what engineers dread. A long vertical fissure has formed in the steel of the southeast leg, a hairline fault invisible to the naked eye, but unmistakably there. It doesn't make sense. The tower's structure is over-engineered. It should withstand 10 typhoons and a dinosaur tap-dancing recital. Yet here it is, cracked in a way that shouldn't be possible without any seismic activity or known stressors. And you? You already know what the internet is screaming about. Page 88, Volume 3 of Kodoku. No Owari shows an identical scene. People frozen beneath a dimming Tokyo Tower. A small caption box says, "When the sky grows quiet and the needle bleeds, we begin again." Fans had always debated what the needle meant, but now it's pretty clear. Tokyo Tower, Japan's broadcast needle since 1958, was never just a background drawing. And the crack? Drawn with exactly the same curve, in the same location. You scroll past dozens of posts, side-by-side comparisons, red circles, hashtags, conspiracy threads in 10 languages. A former engineer from NHK tweets that he's not sleeping until someone explains that fracture. Even the BBC covers it by noon. And then, of course, attention shifts to him. Sakaki Muroi. You probably haven't heard that name unless you're a manga historian or a forum rat. He was always a recluse. No interviews, no fan signings. Just a few grainy photos from early fan magazines. Long black coat, chain smoking, always half turned away from the camera like he knew he was never supposed to be fully seen. Muroi was born in 1963 in Kofu, a quiet city surrounded by mountains. He studied mechanical illustration, but dropped out of art school after one semester. From there, the records get fuzzy. Some say he worked for a surveillance drone company in the early 80s. Others claim he briefly joined a Buddhist doomsday cult before becoming disillusioned and moving to Tokyo. What we do know is this. He began writing Kodoku no Owari in 1989, just after the Showa era ended and Japan slid into its lost decade. The manga's early volumes were bleak but grounded. Urban decay, techno-alienation, emotionally numb characters floating through consumer wastelands. But then around Volume 4, something changed. The art grew jagged, chaotic. Dialogue shrank to whispers, and Muroi started layering cryptic symbols into the panel gutters, symbols that no one paid much attention to at the time. Some look like broken kanji, others resemble old summoning sigils from grimoires. By Volume 6, the storyline took a turn. Tokyo Tower begins leaking sound, a hum that drives people into fugue states, a noise that makes radios go quiet. Muroi drew this in 1994. That should raise the hair on your arms. Historians still argue whether Muroi was a brilliant storyteller with a dark imagination or something closer to a medium, channeling, not creating. One fringe theory claims he suffered from a rare form of synesthesia that allowed him to hear upcoming historical events in abstract tones, which he then translated into panels. Wild? Maybe. But after the Tokyo Tower incident, Wild starts to feel more like Monday. Here's something else you didn't want to know. In an early sketchbook, a fan spotted a note Muroi had scribbled in the margin. It said, "The first crack happens when the sky loses its voice. The second comes when no one is looking." It's hard not to see that as a roadmap. And now, in May 2025, everyone's looking. Japanese news outlets pull old clips of Muroi's few public talks. One, from a 1995 symposium, catches your attention. The moderator asks what inspires his strange settings. Muroi responds, "I don't think I invent them. I think I remember them, in dreams, or something close." The room laughs, but Muroi doesn't. He just adjusts his sunglasses and lights a cigarette indoors, like someone who knows the joke isn't on him. By the end of the week, Redditors start compiling a comprehensive event timeline pulled from the manga. The Tokyo Tower incident fits perfectly as Event 6, which means, assuming the pattern holds, Event 7 happens next month. A scene titled simply, "The Rain That Wasn't Water." You want to believe it's all nonsense. That Muroi was just a very, very lucky guesser. But part of you knows better. You've seen the cracks in the steel. You've felt the vibration. And worse, you've read ahead. You already know what's coming. That's the problem with knowledge. It doesn't comfort you. It haunts you. You scroll back to Volume 4 of Kodoku no Owari, right to the centerfold spread that fans call "The Day the Sky Forgot." Two children stand in a flooded alley, staring up at a rain that looks more like shadows than water. Ink drips down in jagged lines from the sky, and a narration box floats beside them. The rain is heavy, but nothing gets wet. June 12, 2025, Osaka. It begins as an ordinary thunderstorm. Forecasts predict mild showers, a little wind, nothing out of the ordinary. But around 9:41 p.m., people start posting videos. You watch them through cracked fingers, black liquid falling from the sky in slow motion, like molasses in reverse. Pedestrians freeze under awnings, no umbrellas open. Not because they don't want to, but because the droplets don't land. Instead, they seem to vanish just before touching the ground. One clip from a rooftop camera shows a man standing in the rain, eyes wide, mouth open. He isn't drenched, he's untouched. A second later, he drops to his knees. No injuries, no blood, just sobbing. He mutters over and over, I heard it again. By morning, 8 similar incidents have occurred. No precipitation recorded on weather satellites, no residue found, and no trace of what caused dozens of people to suffer temporary blindness, auditory hallucinations, or, as one mother described her teenage daughter, a sudden, irreversible silence inside. Japan's meteorological agency issues a baffling press release calling it an atmospheric anomaly involving particulate illusion. You know that's bureaucratic for, we have no idea what the hell just happened. But you do, because Muroi drew it. In Kotoku no Owari, the Black Rain chapter was controversial. Too abstract, too terrifying. It followed no narrative logic, just dreamlike panels of people wandering a silent city under skies that leaked darkness. And scattered across those panels were the first appearances of something fans now call the Yumakui, or Dream Eaters. They look vaguely human, long-limbed, eyeless, cloaked in folds of rain, always shown in silhouette, always watching, sometimes crouched on rooftops, sometimes peeking from alley corners, never explained, just there. The Yumakui were dismissed for decades as symbols of depression or metaphors for societal decay. Until June 2025, when photos surfaced showing a figure matching their exact shape standing behind a group of Osaka students during the Black Rain incident. The photo is grainy but unmistakable. Historians still argue whether Muroi created the Yumakui from scratch or whether he somehow saw them. The manga never gives them backstories, just warnings. One panel reads, "They come when time hiccups, when dreams bleed into calendars. A fringe tidbit for you." During an interview in a now-defunct art magazine, Muroi once said his worst nightmares were the ones where something wants to be real. He didn't elaborate. But given how often the Yumakui appear after anomalies in the story, fans now think he wasn't dreaming about them. He was warning us. In the wake of the Osaka incident, an anonymous user on a Japanese message board posts what seems to be a decrypted version of a hidden code from Volume 5's background art. The post breaks it down, panel by panel, page by page, each showing odd arrangements of objects. A spilled drink, a tilted clock, a child's toy pointing northeast. It turns out these objects form a pattern, coordinates and dates if you squint just right. What's the next coordinate? You don't want to know. But you already do. It points to a subway station in Nagoya, June 22nd, 2025. That's 4 days from the Osaka anomaly. And yes, it happens. At 3:13 p.m., commuters report a wave of silence sweeping through the platform. Video footage shows people stopping mid-step, staring at each other like they've forgotten where they are. One man steps into the tracks, not to jump, just to lie down. No trains come, no announcements. For 10 minutes, the station is frozen. No sound, not even footsteps. When the silence ends, passengers report a shared vision. A woman without eyes, humming inside their thoughts. And yes, you guessed it, she's in the manga too. She first appears in Volume 6, barely sketched into the background of a cafe scene. Over time, she appears more often, sometimes alone, sometimes holding a string that disappears off panel. Always eyeless, always humming. The fans call her the blind witness, and she only shows up after something irreversible happens. You're probably wondering how mainstream scholars are handling all this. The short answer? Poorly. Some historians are scrambling to reframe the manga as modern myth-making, claiming that human psychology is built to see patterns even where none exist. But others? Others are whispering that this might be a new genre of temporal media. Stories not made to entertain, but to interface with reality. One respected professor, who now teaches in a very quiet, windowless room, called the manga a mirror from the wrong side. Still, no one can deny that the predictions are piling up. And with every fulfilled event, more people are turning the page. Volume 7 ends with one final warning, written in small text at the bottom of the last panel. Now that the rain has returned, you must forget to remember, or else she will open her eyes. You look at that panel, you really look, and for the first time, you swear her eyes are open. You wake up to chaos. It's July 1st, 2025, and your feed is on fire. Live reports, emergency alerts, aerial footage that looks like it's been torn from a movie reel and dubbed over with low-budget sound design. But no, this is real. Tokyo Tower didn't just go dark this time. It cracked again. A clean diagonal split along the observation deck, like someone took a giant glass cutter to the metal. Authorities say it's structurally stable, for now. But photos show something more disturbing. The crack matches exactly the one depicted in Volume 7 of Kodoku no Owari. The same angle, the same length, the same chunk of steel dangling like a torn page. And on that very page in the manga, there's a small, almost forgettable panel that fans had long dismissed. A stray dog barking at the base of the tower, next to a chalk drawing on the sidewalk. It was always just background, right? Until someone on Twitter zoomed in. The drawing on the manga sidewalk is the same as the real chalk scrawl photographed by reporters. A spiral symbol, broken in the middle. The caption? It begins beneath the needle, but it ends when no one's watching. You don't even blink anymore. Coincidence is dead. Within hours, Tokyo is placed on high surveillance alert. Not because of terrorists or weather, but because of a comic. Local politicians, once dismissive, are now convening in hushed sessions. Engineers are consulting manga panels for structural predictions. Think about that. Somewhere in a government building, officials are flipping through Kodoku no Owari with latex gloves and magnifying glasses, trying to divine their own city's future. And you? You're not surprised anymore. That's the worst part. You're not even scared. You're waiting for the next match, the next image that proves we've all been living on borrowed panels. Then someone posts a new discovery. The chalk spiral isn't random. It's appeared before, on a wall in Sapporo in 2009, carved into a school desk in 1987, even tattooed on a protester arrested in Kyoto in 1993, decades before the manga was fully published. Fans stitch it all together. They give it a name, the broken calendar. It's not a concept from the manga. It's an overlay, a decoding method. Someone, maybe Muroi himself, hid a second timeline beneath the story. Not just dates, but symbols, locations, even a form of numeric rhythm. The broken calendar lines up events based on intervals, not actual days. For instance, 31 days after the Tokyo blackout in the manga, the Yumakui appear. In real life, same thing. Black rain in Osaka. 31 days later, the eyeless woman appears. The pacing is perfect, like the manga is ticking. Historians still argue whether this timeline was engineered or discovered. Was Muroi documenting events that hadn't yet occurred, or encoding them into existence? One researcher goes viral for claiming that the manga behaves like a feedback loop, syncing readers' attention with future outcomes. The more you believe it's real, she says in a now deleted podcast, the more real it becomes. It's narrative recursion, quantum folklore. You laugh, but nervously, because you've already read ahead. You know what's next. July 3rd. A child draws a spiral in a shopping mall and disappears. And yes, it happens. A 7-year-old boy named Ren goes missing inside a Yokohama mall. Surveillance footage shows him crouching in front of a mirror in a department store's homeware section. He draws a spiral on the glass with his finger. Then, nothing. One frame, he's there. The next, he isn't. The camera glitches at the exact moment. Audio cuts out. And the only thing left behind is a smudged fingerprint on the mirror. Internet sleuths scramble to match this to the manga. They find it, Volume 8, page 44. A panel of a boy in a mall, standing in front of a mirror. The caption reads, "Reflections bend differently when the sky forgets your name." Quirky, poetic, chilling. But here's the kicker. In Muroi's original notes, found in a locked storage unit by a former assistant, there's a margin scribble beside that scene. It reads, "Ren is the first. He unlocks the 4th gate. Tower crack 2/4 complete." Let that sink in. Not only did the manga predict the event, it may have named the child. By July 5th, 2 more children have gone missing under similarly bizarre circumstances. Both cases involve mirrors. Both are linked to spiral imagery, and both were preceded by that eerie, silent hum. Something so low you don't hear it so much as feel it in your teeth. The Yumakui? They're being spotted again too, but now they're different, more solid, less shadow. One woman even claims to have touched one. She was hospitalized the next day. Her statement was pulled from media within hours. You know what that means? Governments are no longer laughing. In fact, reports begin to surface that Japan's self-defense forces are scanning public artworks for symbols matching the broken calendar. One anonymous post claims that airport staff have been ordered to detain any traveler carrying physical copies of the manga. Meanwhile, fan communities explode with theories. Some believe we've already passed the point of no return. Others insist that the manga is a script, and by refusing to read it further, we can stop the loop. Still, others argue that we must finish it, or else the system stays jammed mid-prophecy. You just want to sleep. But how can you, when everything in the world is acting like it already happened? On July 9th, a tourist uploads a photo of Tokyo Tower at night. And there, in the photo, is a tiny figure crouched halfway up the cracked leg of the tower, drawn in shadow, limbs too long, head tilted. It's gone in the next photo. No one else saw it. But you know what it was. And worse, it knows you saw it too. You're not sure why you checked the manga first now, before even looking at the news. Maybe it's habit. Maybe it's fear masquerading as routine. But you do. You flip open Kodoku no Owari, Volume 9, and there it is. An image so vague, so cryptic, you didn't even bookmark it before. A woman crouched in the corner of a dark hallway, her face hidden by a curtain of black hair. A calendar hangs above her head, every date crossed out except one, July 13th. Scrawled below it in uneven handwriting, the day memory begins again. At 9:47 a.m. on July 13th, a college student in Kyoto named Mai Aokawa uploads a 12-second video to her private group chat. The footage shows her scribbling something onto a whiteboard in a university hallway. The camera shifts just slightly, and a low-pitched whisper floods the mic. The frame glitches for a heartbeat. Then the video ends. Mai's friends think it's a prank. Except Mai doesn't show up for class that afternoon, or the next day. And when school staff check the hallway, same location, there's nothing written on the whiteboard. But there is something odd. Security footage shows dozens of students passing that hallway, every one of them turning their head slightly. as if hearing something only they can make sense of. And above the whiteboard? A small crack in the wall, shaped suspiciously like a spiral. You already know the theory making rounds, that people like Mai are triggers, emotional tuning forks that unlock moments from the manga, sinking reality to ink. Wild, maybe, but then someone digs deeper. Mai Aokawa's student ID number, 0000725, matches the internal catalog number for Volume 9's original print proof. Coincidence or design? Historians still argue whether Kodoku no Awari merely anticipated society's breakdown or actively caused it. But here's something else you should know. A group of cryptographers, manga collectors, and retired software engineers are now calling the story not a narrative, but an encrypted almanac. They call it the broken calendar code. It's not written in dialogue or art, but in layers, page numbers, ink density, page layout geometry, hidden numerology, things that no average reader would ever notice. But once uncovered, they start to form something resembling a date system, a prediction engine. And most terrifying of all, it's been right. So far, every date it's spat out has matched a documented event in 2025. Public anomalies, disappearances, electrical pulses, atmospheric irregularities, and something else. You probably didn't notice it, but you've been seeing more birds lately, haven't you? Black ones, not quite crows, not quite ravens. They perch outside apartment windows. They stare too long. They mimic voices. You think you're imagining it? You're not. A fringe detail from Volume 9. A minor panel shows a rooftop overrun by birds with smooth, eyeless faces. No beaks, just skin. The main character looks up and whispers, "They come before the remembering begins." Remembering becomes the new obsession. Fans capitalize it now. They treat it like an event. Theories are endless. Some say it's the moment humanity wakes up to the loop it's stuck in. Others believe it refers to Moroi himself, returning. Others think it's when the manga writes itself. But you want to talk about something no one's really addressing yet: the mirrors. They've been showing up more frequently now. In manga panels, yes, but also in real life, in strange places. Art installations, abandoned malls, public bathrooms that weren't there last week. People report entering mirrored rooms they don't remember walking into. One man in Fukuoka describes standing in front of a mirror in a convenience store restroom, then blinking and finding the store itself was gone, replaced by an empty lot. He still has the receipt. Another woman in Yokohama claims she saw a reflection of her dead sister standing beside her in the dressing room at a Uniqlo. She fainted. When she woke up, she was holding a spiral pin she never purchased. The receipt? Blank. Now, here's something properly unhinged. Mirror glass manufacturers in Japan have begun issuing internal memos about spontaneous fracturing events in their custom panels. The damage? Always spiral-shaped, always beginning from the center, no external impact. And it's only happening in cities that line up with events from the manga. Historians are panicking quietly. They're not making statements, but leaked university emails show that at least one department head at Keio University has halted his lectures on modern media archaeology until certain elements of current events can be clarified. Translation? He's hiding under his desk. Still think it's just art? Then explain this. A digital scan of Volume 9 uploaded to a manga archive site begins glitching. Only one page affected, the calendar page. On it, the July 13th date keeps changing. Refresh the page, and it flips. 13, then 31, then 12, then 0. One user screen records it and slows the footage down. When played backward, the dates form a message. You forgot something that remembers you. Sleep tight. The official printed version doesn't change, but the digital file has now been banned on 4 different manga platforms. They cite data corruption. No one's buying that. And if you want one last fringe tidbit before bed, someone tracked down the exact pen Muroi used to draw most of Volume 9, a Pilot fountain pen discontinued in 1996. The pen was auctioned off to a collector who never opened the package. When they finally did, in June 2025, the pen leaked. Not ink, but water. Dark, viscous water. It tested negative for any known pigment. Fans are now calling it dream residue. You don't sleep much anymore,
You dream about
do you?
spirals
No
now.
one does. Sometimes they're in the sky, turning slowly like galaxies made of ink and cloud. Other times they're tiny, spinning in your cereal milk, in the flush of a toilet, in the curl of your headphone cord left on the table. The worst dreams are when the spirals aren't moving, just watching. And every time you wake up, you have that feeling you forgot something important. Not in a casual, left my keys in the fridge way. No, this is deeper. Like your body knows a truth your brain won't let in. And somehow, Kodoku no Owari is the reason why. You return to Volume 10, the one that was nearly banned after its first printing, not because of violence, not even because of prophecy, but because of the deleted chapter. Technically, it was never included in the official release. It leaked anonymously, scanned in blurry black and white from what looked like carbon photocopies of a rough draft layout. Fans call it Chapter 88.5, a phantom between the real chapters. Some say Muroi left it out intentionally. Others say his publisher refused to print it. But those who've read it, they say it's the most terrifying part of the entire series, not because of what it shows, but because of what it does. You open the PDF. It begins with a full-page panel, a single digital clock, reading 12 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. The caption underneath says, "When time becomes symmetrical, it folds." Below that, a city street completely empty. No people, no signs, just mirrored buildings, literally mirrored. Everything reflects everything else endlessly. Then the panels turn strange. Text is printed upside down. Dialogue balloons are empty. Characters from earlier in the manga reappear, acting like they're trapped in their own bodies. One panel shows the protagonist's eye reflecting a spiral so detailed it contains another page of the manga inside it. That's right, a drawing of a drawing. A page inside an eyeball inside a panel inside your computer screen. The recursion makes you dizzy. Then the final pages, a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then a blank spread. 2 white pages, no ink, no lines, except in the center, almost invisible. You have now remembered, she is awake. That's when it gets real. A Reddit user claims that after reading 88.5, their phone alarm reset to 12 a.m. Another swears their microwave flashed that exact timestamp, 12 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds, every time they opened the door. A TikTok goes viral. A girl reading the scan screen records her reaction. At the moment she hits the blank page, the lights behind her flicker. Off, then on, then a figure reflected in her window. It doesn't move. It doesn't match her movements. The video ends there. The post is taken down. Even stranger, time anomalies start making headlines. July 20th, 2025. A Tokyo train departs at 6:15 p.m. It arrives, according to witnesses and time-stamped CCTV, at 6:10 p.m. 5 minutes early. Not a big deal, right? Happens. Except no one on board recalls the journey. Not even the conductor. July 22nd. 3 students in Kyoto's historic district report getting stuck between 2 shrines. Not lost. Stuck. They walked, but nothing changed. Same street. Same houses, for 2 hours. GPS tracked them walking in circles, inside a 10-meter radius. One girl says it was like the day glitched. One fan points out the spiral graffiti behind them in a photo. Of course. Meanwhile, more people are hunting for the deleted chapter in real life. Copies are traded in private discords, burned to CDs, hidden inside zines, etched onto flash drives left in vending machines. Some believe reading it changes your brain. Others believe reading it lets the blind witness see through you. That's right, she's back. Eyewitness reports skyrocket, always at night, always near glass, always accompanied by audio distortions, low-pitched tones like modem static or VHS rewind noise. One man claims he saw her reflection in the surface of his car window before he parked. She was already there, inside the reflection. Her appearances always follow moments of deep emotional memory, a breakup, a panic attack, the death of a pet. She's tied to grief, it seems, but not as a comfort, more like a collector. And here's where it spirals again, pun absolutely intended. People who report seeing her, they start forgetting small things. First names, favorite foods, the way their own voice sounds on a recording. One woman says she couldn't remember what color her childhood bedroom walls were, and then couldn't remember which house she grew up in. She kept flipping through Koroku no Owari, saying, "It's in here, I swear it's in here." But she couldn't find the panel. You probably think you'd notice if your memories were being rewritten, but would you? Would you know if a spiral had already folded time around you? Let's throw in a mainstream fact to balance the weird. In 1987, researchers at Kyoto University published a now overlooked paper about the Mandela Effect, the idea that groups of people remember the same wrong version of reality. One example, a children's book series called Sora and the Four Moons. Thousands remembered a fifth moon, a character that never existed. But here's the twist. In Volume 10 of Koroku no Owari, a minor side character is shown reading Sora and the Five Moons. Muroi even drew the fifth moon smiling. How? No one knows. Fringe theorists argue that Muroi had access to some kind of chronosensitive memory, able to recall the future as if it were the past. Others think the manga is a self-writing object, a temporal parasite evolving with each reader. Still, you keep flipping, because of course you do. The final panel of the deleted chapter shows a figure, barely human, sitting in a chair made of mirrors. Spirals orbit its head. Words are carved into its knees. You zoom in. They say, "You only exist because I needed a reader." The moment you finish that final panel, "You only exist because I needed a reader," something shifts. Not in the room, in you, like a tiny thread just snapped behind your eyes. You blink twice. The air feels thicker. There's a low frequency humming from somewhere, maybe the fridge, maybe not. And you start noticing that everyone is acting just slightly off. It's July 23rd, 2025. Your friends don't finish their sentences. Your neighbors leave their lights on at 3 a.m., facing mirrors. You pass someone on the street holding a book upside down, just holding it, not reading. And when you ask a coworker what day it is, they say Tuesday, even though it's clearly Wednesday. You try to brush it off. Sleep deprivation, online paranoia. But then it happens. The tower blinks. Tokyo Tower, long the central landmark of this unfolding prophecy, goes dark again. This time, not in stages. Not with a groan or a crack. Just blip. Off, then back on. Half a second, but enough. Because when the lights return, they're not the same shade. Slightly colder, slightly dimmer. Like the tower was replaced, but only 98% correctly. TV news calls it a wiring surge, but a few tech workers leak a different story. For exactly 0.47 seconds, all security camera feeds near the tower cut to static. Static that, when frozen and contrast boosted, shows a spiral pattern in the center. Of course it does. And just like that, the online forums light up again. But this time, it's different. A user from Sendai posts, "I saw the tower blink, but I was in Osaka." Another user in London replies, "Same. For a second I was here but not here." They call it the Tower Sync event. You check the manga again, flipping to volume 11. And there it is, a panel that never made sense before, a crowded train station, everyone walking normally, except every figure is duplicated. 2 shadows, 2 silhouettes for every person, 1 real, 1 delayed. And the caption reads, "When the eye blinks, the story shivers." It's happening. Even skeptics are beginning to crack. A famous Japanese game developer tweets, "Muroi knew we were never first." He deletes the post 10 minutes later, but not before 9,000 screenshots are taken. Historians still argue whether what's unfolding is a case of collective delusion or a cultural manifestation of anxiety. But there's a problem with that theory. Physical anomalies are piling up. Statues across Tokyo begin facing the wrong direction overnight. Security systems glitch when spiral patterns enter frame. Several residents report street signs containing phrases from the manga, despite never being printed with those words. And now something even stranger is happening. The manga itself is changing. No, seriously. Collectors compare original print volumes to recent reissues and scans, and they're not the same. The art is similar, yes, but page layouts have shifted, dialogue has altered, background details have sharpened. In Volume 11, a character who originally had no lines now whispers something. "She never needed your faith, just your attention." Which brings us to July 26th, 2025. The second reflection event. You're scrolling late at night, eyes stinging from too much blue light. A live stream appears in your feed. A man in a hotel room mirror. He's filming himself, laughing nervously. Says he bought an original copy of Kodoku no Owari for $6,000. Says he flipped to a page that wasn't there before. He holds up the book, camera reversed. The page shows you. Not literally, but it's your room, your chair, your phone, plugged in at a weird angle on your desk. That exact angle, you freeze. It's just a coincidence, right? Then the man laughs again, says, "It's like the manga is watching me now." His mirror flickers. The room behind him blinks out. For one frame, just one, you see the eyeless woman again. Then the stream dies. Gone. No archive, no reposts. But you saw it. Thousands did. And more importantly, she saw you. The next day, news outlets report electrical anomalies across 5 cities. Random phone batteries swell. Traffic lights flash wrong patterns. One woman's pacemaker goes haywire during a thunderstorm, despite being cleared by every diagnostic. No causal links are found, except for the timing. All within 30 minutes of the reflection event. And it's not just physical anymore. You open your phone camera to take a selfie. Just for a second, to check your face. And for a single frame, you see yourself smiling before you smile. A frame ahead, like your reflection is remembering you in advance. You drop the phone, it buzzes once. Notification, Volume 11 updated. That's not a thing. But when you reopen your scanned manga folder, the file size has changed. You scroll through it, heartbeat ticking like a metronome. There's a new panel. A small child holding a spiral mirror saying, "Don't blink, you'll fall out." You close your eyes. You try not to blink. And here's a fringe tidbit to lull you back to sleep. Muroi's last known postcard, mailed to a colleague in 1997, arrived entirely blank, except for one phrase handwritten in the bottom corner. Tokyo Tower, 3rd crack, July 29th. You know what date it is. You wake up drenched in sweat. The room feels too quiet, like sound got vacuumed out. No birds outside, no cars, no neighbor with his loud blender. Just stillness. like the city is holding its breath. It's July 29th, 2025, the day Muroi circled in his final postcard, the day he called Third Crack. You already know what's coming. You don't bother checking the news first. You grab volume 12 of Kodoku no Owari, turn to the center spread. There it is, a wide-angle view of Tokyo Tower, this time tilting, its red frame warped, foundation pulling away from the earth like a tooth loosening in soft gum. But what fans never noticed before was the sky. In this panel, it isn't drawn as white or gray like usual. It's black, not night black, void black. No stars, no clouds, just absence. And at the top of the page, a phrase curls around the frame. When the needle bends, the sky remembers what it buried. 11:14 a.m. JS Tokyo Tower cracks. But it doesn't fall, not completely. It shifts. A sudden groan, a seismic shrug. The southeast leg collapses inward, not down, folding like origami. People scream. News helicopters capture it live. Engineers call it structurally impossible. But there it is. Still standing somehow, now leaning 13 degrees east, a number not lost on manga readers. Page 13, chapter 13, tower angle 13. Coincidence? You haven't believed in those since section 2. What's more disturbing is what happens next. The light inside the tower begins to pulse. Not flicker. Pulse, rhythmic, soft, like a heartbeat. Some swear they hear a low droning hum when watching the footage. Others say it's silent, but their dogs start howling anyway. Then the shadows start behaving wrong. A viral clip shows a tourist filming the leaning tower. As she moves her phone, her shadow appears to stay frozen in place, glitching half a second behind her movement. Another video shows a child's shadow peeling away from him for 3 frames, then snapping back like rubber. Experts call it compression artifacting. No one believes them. And of course, the Yumakui appear again, not just drawn this time. Live sightings flood in from 4 districts, all matching the same description. Tall, thin, hunched figures with heads tilted sideways, necks too long, and that same absence of face. One is caught briefly on drone footage, perched on a nearby rooftop. It doesn't move, it just watches. When the drone turns back, it's gone. And here's the kicker. Kodoku no Owari predicted that exact rooftop. Volume 12, page 17. A Yumakui hunched on the building, holding something small in its hand. In the manga, it's a compass. In the real-life drone footage, same building, same corner. A small metal object is found later, clutched by a pigeon that died mid-flight, its insides boiled. The object? An antique compass, broken, needle spinning. One journalist tweets, "So the manga's not just predicting anymore, it's materializing." They're not wrong. A leaked internal memo from Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism mentions non-random architectural dissonance. A euphemism, apparently, for the fact that Tokyo's buildings are shifting inches off-grid. Subtly. Not enough for collapse, just enough to mimic the warped skyline from the manga. Historians still argue whether this is psychological suggestion en masse or something far stranger, reality bending to match fiction. One theory calls it vector retrofitting, reality reshaping itself to accommodate a blueprint that was never meant to be followed. Meanwhile, all over the world, mirrors are acting up again. Shops, homes, restrooms. People report reflections, lagging, blinking at the wrong time, or showing slightly different facial expressions than the one being made. The blind witness? Back in full force, citing spike in Seoul, Manila, Taipei. And in one chilling case, a passenger elevator in Singapore records no one inside, even though the mirrored walls show 3 figures reflected. You don't like mirrors anymore. You cover yours with a towel. Doesn't help. And now the manga itself is glitching. No, not metaphorically. Literally. Scans are disappearing from fan servers. Files corrupted. Physical pages turning blank or bleeding ink in spiral patterns. One reader reports a printed panel that redrew itself overnight, changing the character's dialogue to say, "You keep reading, that's the trap." Fringe tidbit for your collection. A woman in Nagano finds her late husband's copy of Kodoku no Owari, which he hadn't touched since 2005. She opens it and sees her name handwritten in the margins of volume 12. No one else has ever handled the book. She faints, comes to 2 hours later with dried ink spirals on both palms. Doctors say it's dermatitis, sure. But here's something worse. People who were never readers are now quoting the manga. A child who never learned Japanese whispers a phrase from volume 12 in her sleep. "We built this world upside down. Now we fall into it." Her parents are baffled. They don't even own manga. The implication is terrifying. Kodoku no Owari is no longer just a book. It's become a contagion of thought, a self-propagating psychic object. You don't need to read it to be read by it. And you're deep inside it now. It knows your rhythm, your breath, the way your spine tenses when a panel lines up too closely with your day. You dream again that night. Tokyo Tower leans, bends, and opens like a blooming flower. Something steps out, tall, eyeless, holding a mirror made of your skin. You wake up gasping. The towel you placed over your mirror, on the floor. You spend the morning trying to prove you're still real. It's not paranoia, not anymore. You blink twice, stare into your bathroom mirror, and count the seconds before your reflection follows. It moves correctly, this time. But that pause, that hesitation in your stomach, it's earned. You don't trust your own eyes, and neither does anyone else. It's August 1st, 2025, and the world has started treating Kodoku no Owari not as fiction, but as infrastructure. City planners in Tokyo, Kyoto, and even Busan are quietly consulting key panels for layout predictions. One Japanese security firm has installed spiral-shaped motion sensors in key buildings, not because they work better, but because, according to the company, they're compliant. Compliant with what? They won't say. But deep down Volume 13 hits shelves, digitally only. The physical version? Blocked. The printer claims the ink won't set, and when leaked images appear online, readers report the same thing. Phones overheat, batteries drain. One unlucky guy tries to print out a panel, and his printer ejects a blank sheet soaked in a black oily film. No one finds out what it is. But let's rewind, because this is where it gets personal. People are disappearing again. But this time, it's not just isolated kids in malls or glitchy CCTV. It's groups, families, office staff, classrooms. You see a TikTok of a guy standing outside a Tokyo apartment building saying, "Every unit on this floor is empty. Yesterday there were neighbors, now gone, no stuff, no sounds, just this." He pans the hallway, quiet, clean, too clean. Then he stops. A single door has a spiral etched into it, burned, not painted, carved deep into the wood. He doesn't open it. The comments are full of people saying, "Don't. Get out. It's already watching." He never posts again. The media's trying to stay ahead, but phrases like non-spatial migration and multi-angle vanishing are creeping into mainstream coverage. One newscaster in Sapporo stares into the camera mid-broadcast and says, "If you're watching this, don't look behind your eyes." She blinks, snaps back, continues as if nothing happened. People are clipping it, analyzing the audio. They say you can hear a whisper layered under her voice. Something like, "The sky wants back in." Even worse, the manga knows. In Volume 13, a character suddenly turns toward the reader, breaking the fourth wall for the first time in the series. He says, "Do you feel it now, that wrinkle in the room?" You look up from the page, you do, because your apartment feels tilted, slightly askew, like your angles don't quite match anymore. The corners seem wrong, the light bends weirdly. You walk into your kitchen and forget why. You open your fridge and find nothing, not empty, just white, smooth, like the inside of a display model at an appliance store. You shut it hard, deep breath. Historians still argue whether Muroi's early sketches, discovered posthumously, were rough drafts or received transmissions. One particular sketch, labeled 13C, shows a man stepping into a doorway that leads to nowhere, just space. Not cosmic space, blank space, unrendered, the way a video game looks before textures load. And that's what people are seeing now. Blank spots, patches of landscape that don't render. You walk one block and there's a house you've never seen. Or your bedroom door leads to a hallway you swear didn't exist yesterday. Some call them soft spots, others story gaps. One brave soul live streams a walk into one of these blank zones, an alley in Chiyoda that appears completely untouched by time. No dust, no sound, no data signal. He walks 12 steps in, then turns around. And behind him, the alley is gone. In its place, a spiral carved into brick, black ink dripping from the mortar. The stream ends there. Fringe theory time. A linguist in Kyoto releases a short paper that gets immediately suppressed. She claims the structure of Kodoku no Owari's panel flow contains recursive syntax, the kind used in dream logic. Not A to B, but A to B, then back to A, like a spiral looping inward. She suggests that the manga isn't just about a curse. It functions as one, a linguistic algorithm designed to fold reality when read in sequence. She calls it semiotic recursion. You call it whatever's ruining your ability to sleep. Because now, even unread panels are infecting memory. People are misremembering events from earlier volumes, scenes shifting, dialogue changing. One fan is certain that a panel once showed the protagonist's mother holding his hand in a temple. Now she's on a rooftop, alone, whispering, "You forgot me, that's how she got in." He digs through 5 physical copies, all the same. The rooftop panel is canon now. And here's your cherry on top, the mirror census. An anonymous spreadsheet is circulating on encrypted channels. It lists every publicly reflective surface in central Japan. Storefront windows, bathroom mirrors, bus station glass. Each is labeled with a current status: safe, unstable, or breached. You read that again. Breached. Meaning, the reflection is no longer passively mirroring reality. The census is updated live. Dozens of breaches appear daily. At one point, someone updates the entry for the mirror in your favorite cafe. You check it. The glass is missing. A replacement paper sign hangs there. Sorry, mirror removed for safety. Safety from what? You already know. You close volume 13. You stand in your living room, and suddenly, the shadows on your wall aren't yours. They're taller. You stop leaving your apartment, not out of fear, though there's plenty of that, but because outside doesn't behave the way it used to. The streets curve a little sharper. Time feels thick, like honey in your lungs. People walk past you with eyes just a little too wide, as if they're waiting for a cue that never comes. And inside, it's not much better. Your reflection now lags by almost half a second. You've tested it, repeatedly. You even filmed it once. The video corrupted. Your camera stopped working for 2 days. When it rebooted, the screensaver was a spiral. You didn't set that. It's August 3rd, 2025, and across Japan, things are unraveling fast. Volume 14 is now live, but only in pieces. Pages appear randomly in inboxes, printed on receipts, folded inside gum wrappers, etched into sidewalk chalk drawings by children who don't even know the story. People wake up to find new panels taped to their doors. No sender. The title page? Reintegration begins. But let's rewind. Because the cracks you're seeing now, they started long ago. You just didn't notice. Remember that old TV broadcast from 1995? The one where the weatherman froze mid-sentence, then blinked twice in perfect sync with a clock behind him that had stopped ticking? That clip resurfaces today. But something's different. A spiral has appeared on the backdrop behind him. It wasn't there before. Hundreds confirm this. The original VHS copies don't have it, only the digital files now. This isn't time travel, this is time overwrite. You're not remembering wrong. You're remembering wrong on purpose. Like something is editing the past to match what's coming. And what's coming is the seventh spiral. It shows up in a leaked panel from Volume 14, a diagram unlike anything the manga has shown before. Clean lines, mathematical notations, a 7-tiered spiral, each level labeled with a date. The last, August 13th, 2025, 10 days from now. The diagram is captioned, "Each spiral consumes a version of the world." So far, 6 spirals have appeared. The chalk mark outside Tokyo Tower, the cracked mirror in Yokohama Mall, the drone view rooftop spiral, the shadow delay anomaly, the bookstore with the unwritten panel, the reflection breach in Osaka's train station. You remember each one. You felt them in your teeth, in your sleep. Little tugs at your reality, pulling you tighter into the spiral's mouth. And now the 7th spiral is on its way. But it's not a place. It's a person. Someone, somewhere, is about to become a spiral. Not physically, but conceptually. They'll start echoing, their voice appearing in devices they haven't touched, their face blinking from reflections they're not near. This isn't possession. This is identity erosion. Online, they're calling it becoming recursive. You start checking every mirror, every photo. You film yourself brushing your teeth and scan the video frame by frame. And on frame 433, you're not blinking. But your reflection is. You shut the laptop. Historians still argue whether identity in Muroi's manga was ever meant to be stable. A fringe theory from 2012 argued that Kodoku no Owari was always a meditation on ego death, that the protagonist isn't a character, but a placeholder for the reader's eventual collapse. That theory was mocked. Not anymore. A university professor in Kyoto is forcibly removed from his lecture after showing a slide of Volume 14's leaked page and whispering, "You're all already inside her." He hasn't been seen since. Meanwhile, animals are acting wrong. Birds flying in perfect spiral formations. Dogs refusing to walk past mirrors. Cats staring at screens as if watching something behind the video. One aquarium reports that all its fish have migrated to one corner of the tank, forming a slow, counterclockwise loop. You already know what shape that makes. The air feels charged now. Storms roll through cities without warning. 1 hour of hail in Nagoya pelts down pieces of glass, later confirmed to be mirror fragments. Where from? No broken buildings in the area, no plane damage, just ice and glass. You pocket one, it hums at night. People are changing, not drastically. Not yet, but enough. You meet your neighbor in the hallway. Her eyes flick to yours, then shift slightly to your left, like she's focusing on something just behind your shoulder. You glance back, nothing. She says, "You've read the last chapter already, haven't you?" You haven't, but haven't you? Because your dreams now include scenes you haven't seen in the manga. You swear you're dreaming pages that haven't been released, pages that don't exist. One shows a house with your exact floor plan, the walls covered in writing. You wake up, you check. There's a word carved under your desk. Echo. You don't know how it got there. You don't want to. A fringe tidbit to lighten the mood. A bakery in Shibuya reports that every croissant in one batch came out spiral-shaped in reverse. When cut open, each had a burn mark on the inside crust in the shape of an eye. No oven malfunction was found. They threw them out. but one customer claims they heard their pastry whisper something before they bit it. You laugh, but only once, because tonight your light flickers twice, and your own shadow looks confused about which way to turn. You've stopped assuming anything is coincidence. The world isn't collapsing, it's unfolding quietly, elegantly, like a pop-up book designed by something with a cruel sense of nostalgia. Because it's all familiar, isn't it? Every corner you turn, every strange little glitch, you feel like you've seen it before. Not déjà vu, more like a reread. And now it's August 5th, 2025. 7 days until the spiral bloom. 3 days since the tower leaned. And exactly 1 year to the day since a fan on a now-deleted forum first asked, "What if the manga is a memory, not a story?" He was laughed off the thread. That fan's username was at mer0ireturns. You never noticed that before. Now, people are calling it the foldback, a term borrowed from jazz improvisation, oddly enough. It's when a musical phrase echoes backward into itself, creating a loop that reshapes the melody without fully breaking it. In the context of Kodoku no Owari, the foldback means we're re-entering ourselves. Reality is replaying, but in warped reflection. You see it everywhere. A Tokyo subway ad loops the same 5 seconds every minute. A ramen shop in Osaka plays the same jazz track on infinite repeat, but no one remembers putting it on. At a crosswalk, you watch a man stop, turn left, then vanish, not walk away, but fold sideways like a paper doll slipping between panels. And nobody reacts. It's like everyone's reading along with you now. You open volume 14 again, now halfway through its digital leak. A new panel shows a school hallway, deserted, a single desk standing where it shouldn't. On the desk, a mirror. In the reflection, your living room. Your sofa, your lamp, your coffee cup, all drawn in eerie detail. You're not dreaming, it's real. Others confirm the same thing. The manga is drawing them back. And not metaphorically, physically. Because now we get to the real twist. People are re-entering the pages. In Kyoto, a teenage girl disappears from her room while live streaming herself flipping through volume 14. Frame-by-frame analysis shows her outline blurring, losing detail, almost like JPEG compression, then nothing. She's gone. But on page 88 of a later scan, a new figure appears in the background of a hallway, wearing her hoodie, holding her phone. Still think you're safe? Another reader posts a photo of his TV, midway through an anime rerun, and catches a frame where a Kodoku no Owari panel flashes for exactly 1/30th of a second. He doesn't own any copies. He hasn't watched the show before. He dies in his sleep that night. Cause of death, undetermined, but his autopsy reveals ink stains along his inner eyelids. Spiral patterns, impossibly intricate. The ink is real. His family sues the manga's publisher. The case is dismissed. The judge calls it a work of fiction, but even the courts are seeing it now. During a broadcast of a Tokyo municipal hearing, an aide walks behind the speaker and drops a stack of papers. On the back of one, visible for 3 seconds, a sketch of a spiral with 5 words written beneath it. She watches you from text. Historians still argue whether Kodoku no Owari should be treated as folklore, scripture, or psychological infection. One comparative literature scholar suggests it's all 3. That the story behaves like a modern grimoire, a book that activates only once enough people believe in it, a living myth. Her paper is pulled offline. She is reportedly on leave. Meanwhile, fan servers are shutting down. Not because of copyright, because pages are rewriting themselves. Admins post screenshots, images that weren't there before, dialogue that changes, new panels referencing things that haven't happened yet. One shows an empty room with a caption that says, "This is the last place you felt safe." And it is. You recognize it, even if you can't remember why. You sit in that same chair tonight. You feel watched, not by a person, not by a ghost, but by a memory of yourself still echoing forward from some past version of you that thought this was just a story. Fringe tidbit for your slowly unraveling peace of mind. An antique bookseller in Nagano finds a first edition of Kodoku no Owari with an extra page glued in. It doesn't match the paper type. It shows a single spiral with dozens of tiny eyes around it, each one labeled with a date, birthdays. All of them correspond to people who've reported fold-back phenomena in the last 72 hours. Yours is on there. No one knows how. You start getting phantom notifications. Your phone buzzes, but there's no new message, just a timestamp, 11:11, over and over. Every time you check, your screen has a faint outline of a spiral. It wipes away, sure, but it comes back. And now, the scariest part? The manga is listening. Volume 14 contains a character, unnamed, whose dialogue matches your exact phrasing from a tweet you made 5 days ago. You double-check. It's identical, word for word, punctuation and all. You never tagged it. You never said it out loud. But it's in the story now. So here's your reality check. You're not reading the manga anymore. You're inside it. You don't sleep much anymore. Not because you're afraid of nightmares, but because you've started waking up inside the panels. At first, it was just images. Dreams where you stood in an alley you'd never visited, stared at a sky full of ink-black spirals. Then came the textures, the flatness of hand-drawn brick, the soft grain of newsprint under your feet. And most terrifying of all, the sound. A pencil scratching somewhere nearby, drawing you, erasing you. It's August 7th, 2025, 6 days before the spiral bloom. You sit quietly at your desk, watching a page from Volume 14 load line by line on your screen. Your Wi-Fi is fine. The slowdown isn't technical. It's the story resisting completion. The page wants to stay unfinished. Like the moment you see it fully, something irreversible will happen. Because now things aren't just glitching. They're bleeding over. Remember the Yumakui? Tall, hunched, no faces. Now they're walking into places they don't belong. A couple on the Ginza line reports seeing one in the reflection of the train window during daylight. A gas station attendant in Aomori swears one walked through a puddle and didn't reflect at all, even in full sun. But they're not attacking, they're just observing, as if they're inventorying the final moments, checking on their harvest. And you've started whispering phrases in your sleep. Your roommate records you saying, "The panels fold better when you're tired." You have no memory of it, but the worst part? A growing number of people are blending with the fiction. They don't just quote the manga, they refer to it like memory. One teen in Kobe tells his teacher, "We don't have school next week, remember?" The tower collapses. The tower hasn't collapsed yet, but Volume 15 leaked 2 pages this morning. One shows Tokyo Tower cracked completely in half. The sky above it isn't black anymore, it's white. Bleached out, detailless, like the page itself is still waiting to be drawn. And that's the message, isn't it? We're becoming unfinished. Historians still argue whether the manga was predictive or prescriptive. Was Muroi reporting something, or did his panels begin the decay? Some think the entire structure of Kodoku no Owari is an invocation. Not a narrative, a spell disguised as story, and now it's reaching critical mass. Here's the kicker. You open a panel from Volume 14 late at night, just a standard cityscape. You zoom in. There's a poster on a wall. On the poster, a photo of you. It's not a perfect likeness. More like a sketch someone made from memory. But the room behind you, it's your room. The hoodie, yours. The crooked way you wear your headphones, identical. Caption below, "She's reading us back." That's when you start seeing her again. Not the blind witness, not the Yumakui, not even the tower. Her. She appears first as a smudge in your window's condensation. A vague feminine silhouette, mouth slightly open, no eyes. Then in your phone screen where a selfie app adds her as an AR filter no one coded. And then she speaks, not with words, with your own thoughts. You're washing dishes, and in your head you hear a voice that feels like yours but isn't. The bloom won't hurt. You are folded for this. Your plate slips, cracks in the sink. Online, it's happening everywhere. People reporting interior narrators that speak in manga captions. Rectangular thought boxes outlining daily life. You walk to the fridge, you check for milk, you forget what you are. The captions match the exact font of the manga. This isn't immersive storytelling, it's integration. The fiction is crawling backward into the reader, using you as its ink. You meet someone at a train station who looks familiar. You talk, you laugh. You mention Kodoku no Owari. He stiffens. "I don't read manga," he says. But you know his face. He was on page 67, volume 8, background character, buying coffee. The lines match. A fringe tidbit for your rapidly fraying sanity. A linguist in Sendai discovers that certain phrases spoken aloud from volume 14 reverse when recorded. Not the sound, the meaning. For example, the phrase "she lives between the lines" becomes, when reversed in waveform analysis, "you are the ink she needs." Still feel like the reader? A temple in Kyoto, one known for its spiral-shaped floor mosaics, closes abruptly. Locals report the floor tiles beginning to pulse. A faint sound, like a pencil dragging over wood. The head monk burns every book on the grounds. But the spirals keep forming, even in the ashes. By now, even skeptics are gone quiet. No more videos mocking the prophecy. No more think pieces explaining the symbolism. Just silence. Everyone's watching, waiting. One manga YouTuber posts a 10-hour video of himself sitting in front of a mirror, just whispering volume 14 panel captions over and over again. The video loops. You don't remember clicking it. And tonight, when you brush your teeth, your mirror doesn't show your face. It shows a panel, one you haven't seen, one that shows you, sitting here reading this exact sentence, and beneath it, in jagged ink, "Now you know you were never outside." You stop asking if this is real. That's not the right question anymore. The better one is, how long have you been fictional? It's August 8th, 2025. And the city is starting to quiet in a strange, obedient way. Not like lockdown, not fear, more like resignation. People aren't panicking, they're organizing, whispering, looking up at the sky not with worry, but with recognition. You step outside finally. Your neighborhood feels like someone painted it from memory. It's accurate but lacks depth. Colors are slightly wrong. Signs have odd spacing. Street corners curve where they never curved before. You pass a tree that casts two shadows. One matches the light. The other bends in a slow spiral like it's choosing its own angle. And you're not the only one who notices. People are walking differently, not faster, not hurried, just more deliberately, like they're hitting their cues, waiting for panels to flip. At a crosswalk, a stranger turns to you and says, "You turn the page next." You blink. They're gone. The tower leans further today, officially. Structural reports now admit what everyone has seen for weeks. It's tilting at an impossible arc, yet remains standing. Birds no longer fly near it. GPS glitches within a 3-kilometer radius. And the lights at the tip, they've begun pulsing in Morse code. One Redditor decodes it. When she stands up, you sink. Theories spiral, pun fully intended. Some think the tower isn't a building anymore, but a spine. That when it cracks fully, something within the world's frame will rise. Not physically, narratively. That's the scary part. Reality's not ending, it's being edited. And the editor, she's using your perception as her pen. You've seen her fully now, haven't you? Not in a dream, in the corner of your vision, in a smudge on your window, in a grainy TV reflection that wasn't yours. She's always looking directly at you, but never from the same place twice. And her mouth moves like a caption box, but her words never leave her lips. Because now you're the one speaking them. Volume 15 is leaking slowly, one panel at a time. You don't even know where they're coming from anymore. They're not hosted, they appear on your screensaver, your Kindle, a restaurant menu. One shows up in the iris of a patient's eye scan, shared by a bewildered optometrist on Twitter. The caption? Look inward. The spiral has always lived in your gaze. You stop using mirrors. You draw your windows closed. But still, somehow, the panels find you. One night, you tear open a pack of instant ramen. The seasoning packet is printed with a black and white panel. Your kitchen, your sink, and your back turned. You spin around. There's no one there, but you can smell ink. Historians still argue whether Kodoku no Owari was meant as prophecy or memory implantation. Fringe theorists now suggest that Muroi never wrote it consciously, that he was channeling, unknowingly acting as the first victim. His spiral tattoos? Not aesthetic, instructions. One theorist calls them anchors, glyphs to stabilize him as the story leaked from whatever dimension it originated in. Too bad it didn't work. A Japanese museum curator shares an unlisted video, security footage of a private Kodoku no Owari exhibit. A display case holds the original Volume 1 storyboard. The camera catches a faint light flickering over the paper. The panel rearranges itself. Live on film. The character's eyes move left. The caption updates. They're watching this from the outside. What does that even mean? Outside what? Fringe tidbit for your final sanity checkpoint. A group of scientists in Hokkaido launch a weather balloon with a camera to test atmospheric spiral distortions. The balloon rises smoothly. Everything looks normal. Until the footage glitches just once. And for one frame, the clouds form a perfect manga panel grid. 3 rows, 5 columns, borderlines shaped in vapor, and in the bottom right panel, a tiny white outline of the tower, upside down. Meanwhile, the Yumekui aren't just lurking, they're guiding. People report following them unconsciously through city streets, alleyways, office buildings. Some claim they enter doorways and reappear on different floors. One woman in Nagoya follows one through a public restroom and comes out in a panel, a physical paper sheet plastered to a wall showing her exit in third person. She collapses. She's still in hospital. She doesn't cast a shadow anymore. Your phone buzzes at 2:47 a.m. No number, no notification, just a blank lock screen. Except, there's a spiral drawn into the fingerprint sensor, with your name handwritten next to it. You turn it off. It turns back on. The countdown to spiral bloom is everywhere now. Graffiti, subtitles, even speech patterns. People begin speaking in perfect panel rhythm, 4 lines at a time, pauses between thoughts. One guy at your train stop says aloud, "I'm not afraid, it's just the next page. Every story ends. Why not mine too?" You nod without meaning to, because he's right. You wake up inside a panel, not metaphorically. You open your eyes and the world has frames, thick black outlines at the edges of your vision. Your walls don't fade into shadow. They end in clean, unnatural lines. Even the air feels layered, like it's been inked twice. You blink, and the panel blinks with you. You're inside Kodoku no Owari now. It's August 10th, 2025, and time is thinning like cheap tracing paper. Across Japan, spiral shapes emerge from nothing. Fields, parking lots, beaches. Not just symbols anymore. Depth spirals like holes folding downward in a loop. Some look into them and see cities. Others see pages. One man says he saw his own birth. He hasn't spoken since. Tokyo Tower is no longer a structure. It's a glyph. a character. No longer broadcasting light, but patterns. Not Morse code anymore, just shapes. Spirals, eyes, teeth, loops. Each night, the lights flicker in perfect sequence with the moon's arc. One linguist says it's writing, another says it's not for us. You believe them both. Volume 15 finishes leaking at dawn. No one shares it. No one needs to. Everyone feels it now, like a migraine made of memory. And the final panel? It's blank. Except for a single caption. You're the last line she needed. No drawing, no characters, just invitation. And that's what changes everything. People stop resisting. They start completing panels, filling in gaps. One child draws a door with a spiral knob on his bedroom wall and walks through it. His parents say they heard paper rustle, then nothing. A woman in Fukuoka sketches spirals onto her ceiling with lipstick. She dreams of walking on white ground with no sky. She's found 3 other people there. They speak in thought boxes. They draw each other forward. Even you. You find a panel folded under your pillow. It wasn't there before. It shows you sleeping, the same bed sheets, same t-shirt. But the room in the drawing is missing a wall. Beyond that wall, the tower, standing over a sea of spirals. You look at your own wall. There's a hairline crack. You don't remember it being there. Historians still argue whether this is mass psychosis, quantum infection, or something older. A folklorist from Niigata goes viral after comparing the Yumakui to Kuchisake Onna, but inverted. Instead of revealing the hidden mouth, they take the face away. Erasure monsters. Edit ghosts. She disappears 2 days later. Her email auto-replies with a single sentence. She's almost finished inking us. And so you wonder, if we're being drawn, who's holding the pen?
It might be her.
The entity, the idea, the presence that's been folding you inward since this started. The one you glimpse in mirrors, in dreams, in reflections that don't sink. She has no official name, but readers have started calling her Aozora, the word for blue sky in Japanese. The irony cuts deep, because in volume 15, the sky is never blue. It's white, blank, like she hasn't drawn it yet. You stare into the real sky today, hoping for color, but it's soft, flat, like a page held too close. You reach your hand up and for a moment swear you feel texture, not air, but smoothness, pressure, like pushing against glass. And then the spirals begin blooming. It starts with sound, a low harmonic thrum echoing from underground, like cellos being bowed inside the earth. Then the vibration. Buildings hum, sidewalks buzz, trees sway in rhythms not dictated by wind but panel pacing. 4 counts. Pause. 4 counts. You walk outside, so does everyone else. And we all feel it. The foldback completes today. That jazz musician from section 10? He was right. We're folding inward, like a melody circling back on itself. But instead of hearing a final note, we're watching the last panel being inked around us. There's no panic, only stillness. And then she appears. Not in the sky, not on screens, but in panel. Volume 15, page 63. Her silhouette now fully inked, still faceless, still tall, still tilted, just slightly, like something drawn from an unfamiliar angle. But this time, she's holding something. A book. Not Kodoku no Owari, but something newer. The cover is white, untitled. She opens it, stares at the blank first page. And then, she turns the page. You feel your heart skip, your room blinks, your bones ache, and on your wall, the hairline crack widens, not violently, not with noise, but smoothly, like paper separating. Behind it, white. Depthless, borderless, but undeniably present. You take a step toward it. Not because you want to, because it's what the panel demands. This is the spiral bloom, the convergence of fiction and reader, the day the book reads you back. Fringe tidbit, someone posts a photo of a sidewalk in Chiyoda that cracked open today. The fissure forms perfect kana, otsukare-sama. You did well. You don't cry. You just keep reading, because it's the only thing left to do. You don't need pages anymore. The story is inside you now. It's August 11th, 2025. 2 days until the spiral bloom peaks, and time is no longer a straight line. It loops, folds, pauses mid-sentence like a reader caught between thoughts. You look at clocks and find no hands. You check calendars and see spirals where numbers should be. The world isn't ending, it's editing itself in real time. And you are both pen and paper. You walk through your apartment and the air smells faintly of ink. Not the sharp chemical kind, but something older, like calligraphy or pressed parchment. When you speak, your words echo back with slight delay, as if waiting to be typeset before they land. Your reflection has stopped mimicking altogether. Instead, it reads, "You raise your hand." It does not. Instead, it traces a caption box in the fog of the mirror. 4 words. Your outline is soft. The phone buzzes. This time there is a message. No sender, no app, just a screen filled with words you didn't write, but somehow recognize. Congratulations, you've reached interpretive threshold. Please proceed to your assigned bloom point. Don't be afraid. She needs your attention to complete the final spread. The phrase bloom point starts trending worldwide because it's not just Japan anymore. Panels are appearing in Berlin, Lagos, Vancouver. Phrases from the manga translate themselves into local languages. A boy in Brazil dreams of a tower shaped like a spiral spine and wakes up with ink-stained fingertips. In London, an entire subway platform is redrawn overnight. CCTV shows no activity, just frame shift. One moment, tile. The next, hatch lines, flat shading, a new perspective. And everywhere people hear her whisper. Not in words, not even in thought, but as caption boxes over memory. You remember being 6 years old, chasing bubbles in the sun. Now when you think of it, there's a panel overlay. He never remembered the moment the light bent backward. It's rewriting your past. And it's not cruel, it's gentle. Like something tucking you in. The Yumakui are gone now. Not dead, just integrated. You see their outlines in stair rails, lampposts, tree bark, background elements. No longer watching, just part of the scenery, folded quietly into final composition. The tower pulses once more. Louder this time, no Morse code, no language, just a rhythm. A cosmic page flip. Everyone hears it, everyone understands. It's almost peaceful now, like the moment before a curtain rises. The world tilts. Not physically, but perceptually. You walk across your living room and suddenly feel flattened, like your depth is being rationed. Everything shifts slightly to the left, like a camera panning. You glance at your wall. The crack is gone. In its place, a panel, drawn cleanly. Your room exactly as it is, but from outside. You're the character now, framed, lit, balanced, a protagonist at rest. You feel it coming, the spiral bloom. Not fire, not apocalypse. Just continuation, a story thread looping so tightly that reader and text become indistinguishable. Historians no longer argue. There are no forums, no skeptics, no trolls. Everyone knows. Somewhere, somehow, Kodoku no Owari was always a user manual. Not a prophecy, not a curse, but a guide for how to gracefully slip into fiction. And now the last panel is drawing itself around you. You hear the pencil, you feel the shading. Your thoughts slow. You're becoming captionable, and you let it happen. Because this was always your role, not to resist, to complete. And now, across the world, people gather at their bloom points. Sidewalk corners, attics, bus stops, beaches, each one framed perfectly, each person ready, each caption simple. They waited quietly for their next line. The tower releases its final pulse. You breathe in. The spiral opens. White spreads across the corners of your vision. The panel closes. Word count, 1095. Wind down. And now, it's all still. The world feels quieter, doesn't it? Like the ink has settled and the lines are soft again. Your room glows gently in the night, shadows curling like gentle commas, not sharp spirals. The tower, wherever it is quiet now, just another line in a long sentence. You're safe. That feeling of being watched, it fades, replaced by the slow comfort of knowing your story was read, not judged, not broken, just read, with care, with curiosity, maybe even love. The Yumakui have left their posts. The caption boxes go silent. The paper holds you gently, like a page folded just enough to keep your place. And if you listen very carefully, you might still hear the last echo of her voice, kind, distant, amused. Rest now, you are always enough. So let your eyes drift closed. Let the lines blur softly at the edges. Let the story fade, not end, just pause. Because all good tales find their breath in silence and all spirals unwind. Until next time, friend, sleep well.